I love The American Office.
So sue me. No, don't sue me.
And since I like talking about the show, I decided to make a tier list of all the best or worst duos from all the 9 seasons of The Office. Some team-ups were surprisingly funny and wholesome, while others caused a lot of disappointment when they came.
That's what she said.
Keep in mind this is all just my opinion, so you might be wrong and disagree with me. That's okay.
Why are you the way that you are?
That being said, let's get started. By the way, I'm not judging based on screen time. If a duo has like 20 minutes, but it's all great, they still can get TRS. Also, I'm not doing relationships because they've been talked about enough. If we were to put each duo on a scale between funny and wholesome, I'd put Michael and Dwight around here, since their relationship is mainly there to be funny. And this works very well. Almost every episode is elevated by the chemistry these two have. Most of the time by being idiots together, or one of them making a complete fool out of themselves. This is not to say there are no wholesome moments at all. The Office wouldn't be the great show it is if that were the case. Of course there is Michael being there for Dwight at his wedding, Michael and Dwight dancing in front of the grave of the chair model lady, or them celebrating saving the company. If I have to rank them as a duo, I think they're too iconic not to put in S tier. Although there are some moments where I would like to have seen them as better friends, they make up for this by the amount of entertainment they bring to the show. So it's gonna be an S tier. Michael and Jim's relationship, like most of Michael's relationships, has improved a lot by his final season, even having Jim calling him the best boss he ever had. Somehow that's something I don't see season 1 Jim say to Michael. I'm a sucker for the bromance between these two, and always love a scene where Jim appreciates Michael. A moment that does a great job doing this is their talk after Michael returns from his survival trip in the woods, where Jim realizes he might have underestimated Michael a bit.
I tried to put all the birthdays together at once.
Oh,
So, terrible idea.
yeah, okay, I did that. Rookie mistake.
You did do it?
Yeah.
I also really enjoy the few episodes we get of them being co-managers. I think Jim really starts to appreciate Michael as a boss just by experiencing what it is like to be a manager at Dunder Mifflin. These two have some really well written moments where they look out for each other, or simply understand what they're both going through. Such as this simple scene where they're both having women-related problems. A simple look of, it is what it is, am I right? This duo works for a different reason than Michael and Dwight, and I would put them more towards wholesome. They do deliver a lot of laughs, but what makes them special in the end is how much they care for each other. I think I like these two even better than Michael and Dwight as a duo. So for me this is an easy S tier. Let's take a break from the main character relationships to talk about Kelly and Erin, or Kelly and Kelly. This is a duo we don't see nearly as much as the previous two, and yet is still quite memorable, I think. Both Kelly and Erin don't have too many well-defined relationships with others, besides romantic interests. Kelly doesn't really seem to like anyone, and most people don't really seem to like Erin too much, especially earlier seasons. I don't think these two are many people's favorites, and honestly there isn't that much to say about them. They have some moments that I can think of, them making their music video and them hanging out in the backseat while Andy is driving, but to me the best part of this duo is when they become a trio, with Ryan, or at least Ryan wishes.
I think you're attractive, and I want to sleep with you.
What about Kelly?
You read my mind.
I think Erin and Kelly are at least iconic enough to be considered a duo, but they don't come close to the previous two. To me, they feel right at home at C tier. Andy and Dwight, famously known for their rivalry over Angela, that eventually leads to a duel.
Good! A duel! The winner gets Angela. Fine! Fine!
These two go through a lot of phases during the runtime of the show. They start off as total enemies, arguing over their office positions, then they're part of a love triangle, and it's only brief moments we get to see their friendship. I loved that country roads moment and would have really liked to see more of them hanging out together without the constant arguing. The few moments we get of this are really good and leave me wanting more. So with a few exceptions, these two are mainly there to be funny and bring some conflict to the story, and this works. Their love triangle is a memorable part of the show. But once again, these two are not up to the level of our S tier duos, but I enjoy them more than Kelly and Erin, so A tier. There is some big ones yet to come, but first let's shed some light on these two. A subtle, if not somewhat underrated office duo. Two smaller characters that still have quite some good moments together. Such as Stanley making Phyllis a bird statue. Never mind, they're using band-aids. Or small moments like these.
Stanley, you're dancing.
No, I'm not.
These two really have the chemistry of a couple that has been together forever and can and will say anything to each other. They appreciate each other, but won't fake not being annoyed. When I think of Stanley, I think of Phyllis, and vice versa. And I don't think there's that much more to say. These two are a great duo and deserve a spot in the A tier. It is time to guess who our next duo is gonna be. They work in the same office. It's a man and a woman, a fan favorite, and they've been there since the beginning. Are you thinking Meredith and Creed? Well, you're wrong. Dwight and Pam are in the rare position where they've been mostly friendly since the start of the show. Of course, Dwight is occasionally rude towards Pam and Pam is snarky towards Dwight, but it never seemed like these two disliked each other. The real start of the friendship, I think, happens in season 3. When Dwight sits down to comfort Pam about Jim. From then on, they care for each other and help each other out when they can. And while Dwight never seems to mind screwing over his co-workers, he always has a soft spot for Pam.
Oh, Pam, you're adorable.
Oh my goodness.
But you married my worst enemy.
I know.
Well, I think enemy's a strong word.
This relationship is a fan favorite, and it is obvious to see why. And I think this clip perfectly shows why their relationship works so well.
While you're out, could you pick up some paper towels and chocolate syrup? We have ice cream, so I thought we
Pam,
could
this isn't a shopping trip.
No.
This is a manhunt/rescue mission.
Okay, when you're done, or anytime it's convenient, I just thought since you're out.
Pam, I'm obviously gonna get that stuff for you, so just shut up.
Okay, well, it wasn't obvious.
Out of all the duos I've done so far, I think Pam and Dwight fall most on the side of wholesome, contributing to a lot of heartfelt moments throughout all 9 seasons. I really enjoyed their relationship and think they deserve an S tier. I don't know if I'm being too positive, but what can I say? I like The Office. While Michael always claims his co-workers are his family, I think Erin is the only one who saw Michael the same way. Their relationship has often been compared to a father and a daughter, and I can see why. And the writers of the show made this dynamic very clear in the scene in season 7's episode Viewing Party.
You are not to tell me what to do.
As long as you are living under this roof, you are going to do what I say.
I hate your roof.
Oh, do not raise your voice to me.
I'll raise it all I want. I'll raise the roof.
I will pull this car over.
I hate it. I hate your car.
What makes this duo so fun to watch is how Erin gladly goes along with anything Michael comes up with, celebrating Holly not being engaged or throwing scissors around the office.
Scissor me.
It does seem like Michael needed some time to warm up to Erin, seeing how much he struggles to have a conversation with her when taking Erin out for lunch on Secretary's Day. But by the time Michael moves away with Holly, it is clear he feels responsibility over Erin, giving her some fatherly advice.
Because you are beautiful, and you are fun, and you are smart. And when the right guy comes along, you'll know it.
Erin's happy go-along attitude makes this a very fun duo to watch, with some well-written and wholesome moments woven in between. And though I'm tempted to put these two in S tier, when looking at their competition, I don't think they're quite at that level. For that reason, I'll put Michael and Erin in A tier. Pam and Angela, The Office ladies. Although the Office YouTube channel calls these two frenemies, it is sometimes hard to see where the friend part comes in. I'm not saying they don't have any moments where they're nice-ish to each other, but almost every scene ends with Angela saying something snarky to Pam. Throughout the series, Pam is definitely friendlier to Angela than she deserves, especially if you consider how often she treated Pam poorly.
Why is Jim treating the magician poorly?
What is, however, noticeable about their relation is that Angela does come to Pam when she needs something off her chest, which might also be due to a lack of options on her part.
Boom. Roasted.
But this doesn't make them a bad duo necessarily. So do they make up for it by the comedy they bring? I mean, kinda? They have some funny moments together, but the joke is often that Angela is just being a bitch towards Pam, which gets old to me. If these two had the same amount of screen time as Kelly and Erin, they would work better, but considering they are a prominent part of the show, I'm gonna have to put them right next to Erin and Kelly. Where all the previous duos had some balance between wholesome and just funny, for Michael and Toby there is no nuance there. The thing is, for Michael and Toby I really enjoy it, where the joke wore out with Angela and Pam.
Which I think it's a little hypercritical.
I think the reason Toby and Michael work is because the lack of nuance is the point. To Michael, Toby is just the absolute worst, no explanation needed. Michael is my favorite character in the show, and Toby brings out the best in him by bringing out the worst in him. For me, this relationship doesn't need some backstory as to why Michael hates Toby. If it wasn't for the performances of Steve Carell and Paul Lieberstein, it probably wouldn't work nearly as well. But this duo is just very fun to watch, and it's an A tier for me. Andy and Darryl kind of feel like brothers. Darryl being the older brother and Andy being the younger brother who is just happy to hang out with his older bro. This dynamic is evident when Andy initially pays Darryl to play in his band, or with Andy's over-eagerness in texting Darryl.
You gotta stop texting me so much.
Darryl does like Andy though, and will mess with him, but also have his back when needed.
You did good. Real good.
Thanks, Dad. Darryl.
These two are good. They don't steal the show, but are a welcome addition to it. This duo is more fun than both candidates in C tier, but don't live up to anything that is in A tier or higher. So the first B tier duo is gonna be Darryl and Andy. For some duos, there isn't that much to say, but this is not the case for Pam and Michael. As with all the duos from the main cast of the show, it is well thought out and developed. Pam becomes more and more confident throughout the show, especially in season 3, also improving her relationship with Michael. Similar to Erin, Pam lets Michael be himself, including all his quirks. Michael, at least to some extent, is aware of this and appreciates Pam for it. I think one of the best episodes to show how this duo is like no other is Grief Counseling, with Michael organizing a funeral for a bird. In this episode, Pam is the only one who really understands what Michael's actually going through, or is at least the only one who cares. Michael doesn't really care about the bird, or his old boss at Truck. What he is really upset about, and Pam notices this, is his fear of dying alone. To help Michael with this, Pam goes all out for the bird funeral, and sends it off with a speech actually aimed at Michael.
But of course, we all know that doesn't mean he was alone. Because I'm sure that there were lots of other birds out there who cared for him very much. He will not be forgotten.
Amen.
Thankfully, it is not only Pam who is considerate to Michael. Michael also really cares about Pam and goes out of his way to support her. In the episode Business School, this is beautifully shown with Michael showing up at Pam's art show.
Pam Casso. Sorry I'm late. I had to race across town.
Oh, Michael.
Wow. You did these? Freehand?
Yep.
My God, these could be tracings.
And these are just a few examples of these two caring about each other. And there's many more. To me, this might be the most genuine and interesting duo out of everyone. To avoid rambling on, I'll give these two a rating. But not before I show one more excellent scene of these two. This time with Michael understanding what Pam is going through and helping her out.
I can't do this. I had a real job. I sat 10 feet away from my fiance. I had health benefits. I was just feeling impulsive. I should have gotten a tiny tattoo on my ankle.
You quit your job, I quit my job. We both quit. Those are the facts. That's what happened. Now, what are our choices right now? Because, you know what, kiddo, you quit.
Yeah.
So what are our options? Well, we can start this paper company. We can try. Or that's it. That's our only option because we quit.
Alright, so this might come as a surprise, but I really like Pam and Michael together. So much even, I can look past moments like this.
What are you doing?
What are you doing?
I'm rejecting your kiss.
I didn't.
This is S tier, easily. Probably the best duo on the show. Oscar and Kevin are similar to Phyllis and Stanley, characters with less screen time that are often thought of together, which says something about this duo. It is often said that nothing brings people together like a common enemy, and when looking at the accounting department, suddenly it makes sense why these two are so close. A duo with this big of a difference in intelligence is only gonna work if the smarter party won't mind, and thankfully, Kevin is very lenient towards Oscar.
I have very little patience for stupidity.
I could understand if this duo is on the top of the list for some people, but for me, not necessarily. I like them well enough, but nothing special. They'll join Darryl and Andy in the B tier. So we're almost there, with only one more main character duo to go. But before that, let's talk about Darryl and Jim. Two easygoing characters that are easy enough to like.
How good did that feel? It felt really good, actually.
This becomes more of an established duo in the later seasons, mainly with the Philly storyline, where they even become roommates.
And they were roommates.
Oh my god, they were roommates.
And even though a lot of fans have problems with the Philly storyline, for obvious reasons, I think seeing Darryl and Jim spend more time together was kind of fun.
And they wanted to know when you can start.
What? How about yesterday?
And as can be expected from two pretty normal guys, they have a pretty solid friendship. Nothing too memorable, but a welcome friendship to the show. So these two are very solid. Nothing less, nothing more. Giving them a spot in the B tier. We'll stick on Jim a little bit longer. Seems like he's a well-liked guy in the office. Kevin and Jim might fly under the radar when it comes to office duos. I think because they don't have real storylines together. However, they do have a lot of smaller moments together where we get a good look of their friendship.
Anybody want to take a guess?
$5 says it's over 50.
You really want to bet?
Anybody?
Ever since March Madness ended, I am so bored.
I'm in it.
Okay, you're on.
10 people, Michael. 10 people. Would you like to be one of them?
No, don't worry about it. We'll just go double or nothing.
On what?
I don't know. We'll figure something out.
What are you guys talking about?
Kevin is good buddies with most of his co-workers, and this includes Jim. I do think Jim is the only one who calls Kevin Kev, which further proves their friendship.
Hey, Kev.
Hey, man.
How you doing?
Also, a fun detail, when Jim calls from Stanford and gets talking to Pam in Scranton, he actually called to talk to Kevin about fantasy football.
Hi.
Hi.
Sorry, I forgot Kevin's extension. It's a fantasy football thing.
Oh.
And I was just gonna go through the system because I didn't think you'd be there.
The feel of this realistic friendship does kind of fade as the show progresses, by making Kevin dumber every season. But still, these two are shown to have each other's backs and have a fun balance between wholesome and funny. So even though there's not that much room left, they're gonna have to fit in the A tier. Alright, so I know I said Pam and Michael are the best duo on the show, but come on, none of them are more iconic than Jim and Dwight. These two are of course most known for the pranks Jim pulls on Dwight, that only work because of how Dwight reacts in response. And those are great, but there is so much more to this duo. Such as this moment, where Jim recommends Dwight for the job of manager at Dunder Mifflin.
And with his performance this year, I have been considering Dwight. Am I crazy? Not at all. It should be Dwight.
The reason all of the S tier is filled with main characters is because they get so much more time to develop their relationships. And the same thing happened for Dwight and Jim. They go from co-workers that often seem annoyed with one another to being best friends. When I think of Dwight and Jim, I mostly recall their funny moments. But needless to say, they also bring a lot of wholesome moments to the show. Both characters grow a lot during the runtime of the show, and as does their relationship. When Michael leaves at the end of season 7, for the following 2 seasons, it is mainly these two that carry the show. There are so many great clips to show for these two, and that says everything you need to know about this duo. For now, there is nothing else to do than to finish off this tier list with, if not the best, for sure the funniest duo from the entire show. Dwight and Jim are S tier. So that's it, 15 Office duos ranked. Final results being 2 duos in C, 3 duos in B, 5 in A and another 5 in S tier. Of course there is more Office duos that could have been included, but these were the ones that came to mind when I decided to make this video. With more additions to this list, some might actually move down to D tier, or even further. With this current list, there isn't really any duo I dislike, something that would change if I did say another 10. Anyways, as I said, you can disagree or you can be correct, whichever you want. Thanks for watching and
Catch you on the flippity flip.